old Bromwich is out riding again on that electric contraption, my friend. He's got a camera mounted on his brim, filming content for his channel on a whim. He's just a Midlands cowboy on a battery-powered horse, making his video fortune on a different kind of force.
Good afternoon, folks. I hope you can hear me okay above the traffic. It's Friday the 1st of May and we're just heading up from Black Lake in West Bromwich towards Hilltop, and we're just passing a building on our right hand side now that used to be the new Talbot pub. There's another pub that's closed down. It's now residential properties. And as we rise up the hill towards Hilltop, we've got another pub you can probably just make out in front of us on the left hand side, called the Sow Bar and Grill, which was originally the Sow and Pigs, and this is one of the oldest pubs in West Bromwich. So as I say, we are making our way up to Hilltop. So we're now in Hilltop, and you can probably just make out in front of us, the other side of the road, an housing development which is called Siddons Way, and we're just about to venture into Siddons Way once we cross the road, because this, as you can see, is a relatively recent housing development. But once we get across the road, I'll just tell you a bit about the history of the site before it became houses. So we're just coming into Siddons Way. As you can see, this is a small housing development. But this site actually used to be Hilltop School, which many years ago I attended. So as you can see, it was a relatively small site for a school, but it was a secondary school in its latter years. I'm just going to turn around. So as I say, this was the site of Hilltop School, and the house you can see in front of us at the moment is the only building that's left standing from the original school structures. And the school was a secondary school which opened in 1911 as Hilltop Council School, and this incorporated an infant, junior and secondary school departments on the corner of Hilltop and Coles Lane. The buildings were later enlarged in 1914 to allow the school to take extra pupils, and part of the school was damaged by the Luftwaffe during the Second World War. Then after the war, the infant school relocated to a site on the new Atley Heath housing estate in 1950, with the juniors following shortly after in 1952, leaving only the secondary school at Hilltop. The school status changed from secondary modern to comprehensive in 1969, when it took on the title of Hilltop High School. Just let this car pass. And the school was made up of 4 groups, or as it was known to the staff and the pupils, houses. Those being Cheshire, Chichester, Keller and Nightingale. Unfortunately, by the late 1980s, the number of pupils attending the school was starting to fall, and so the decision was made by Sandwell Council that the school was no longer viable and would have to close. The school finally closed in July 1992, and the buildings were demolished a few years after a fire badly damaged the premises, and it was replaced by the houses that you could see earlier on. Now this building that you can see in front of us, which is housing the Tigers, Martial Arts, the Hilltop Gents Barbers, the phone shop and the entrance to the car park, all used to be on premises. and this was Humphrey Lugg's ironmongers for a number of years until it was taken over by James Lister's, and it was Lister's for just a couple of years, and then eventually Lister's closed this branch down and it was split up into separate units, as you can see now. And just next door to Lugg's used to be a clothing store which supplied all the school uniforms for Hilltop. In front of us you can see a co-op superstore and also a veterinary surgery. Now on this site, or just around this site, back in 1921 a cinema or picture house was built, and this was known as the Hilltop Picture House, and so it opened on the 27th of July 1921 and it was refurbished in 1938, reopening on the 2nd of January 1939 as the Rex Cinema. It was closed in December 1960, and the final film which was shown featured Kirk Douglas in The Vikings. It was later sold to the Dart Spring Company to be used as a storeroom, but in around 1975-1976 it was sold to a motor company who demolished it to make way for an extension to its premises. And obviously that motor company is no longer here, and it's been a co-op and a veterinary surgery for probably around about the last 15 to 18 years. Right, we're just crossing the car park of the co-op, and we're now coming up to what used to be Hilltop Police Station. Not sure if you can make out on the wall there, but we've got the sign Sergeant's House above the 3 windows, and then above the doorway we've got the police sign. It's no longer a police station. It's now actually, I believe, used as some form of community centre, but quite an old building, established building. And on the end here we've got Hilltop Library, which, looking at the opening times, it's closed on a Monday morning, open on Monday afternoon, closed all day Tuesday, closed on a Wednesday morning, open Wednesday afternoon, closed all day Thursday, open Friday 10 till 2, open Saturday 10 till 2, and closed on a Sunday. I do believe it's staffed by volunteers, as are many of the libraries now in West Bromwich. So just going to have a quick look at the stone in front of us. So the County Borough of West Bromwich, this stone was laid by Charles Ackrell Esquire, JP Mayor, in September the 20th 1897. So I presume it's one of the Ackrells who's associated with the Ackrell homes up in Old Meeting Street in West Bromwich, which if you're a viewer of A Walk with Phil's channel, Phil has mentioned on his channel a couple of times now. Right. So we've just left Hilltop and we're now into Whitton Lane, and just going to stop in a second and cross the road once traffic allows. And we're just entering Hilltop Park, which is another one of the parks in West Bromwich. In many years since I've ventured into Hilltop Park. Thank you. As you can see, happy with dog walkers. And yeah, it's not the biggest of parks, but well laid out. Plenty of grassed areas, which is nice to see in an urban area. I remember many years ago where the tennis courts were on our left hand side. Beyond that used to be a scrapyard, and we used to have to play tennis on the tennis courts, and we'd spend many an happy time knocking the ball over into the scrapyard, so we'd got to go into the scrapyard and look for the ball that was missing. As you can see, we've got a play area here for kids and some exercise facilities which somebody's making use of in front of us. So, nice little peaceful park, isn't it? Unfortunately, I looked for the history of the park and couldn't find out much about it. So, if anybody wants to comment on the history of the park, if they know about the history of the park, then please feel free to do so. I think we're coming up to a dead end by the looks of it. We might have to turn around. Oh, we're not. The path carries on. So we're looking back at the park. Now, Hilltop did have some famous residents. One of those being John Wesley Woodward. And John was the youngest son of Joseph and Martha Woodward, and the family lived in Hawks Lane, Hilltop. His father was manager of the Holloway Iron Foundry. Now, John became a professional musician, playing the cello at Oxford. He later became attached to the White Star Line, who were famous for their ocean liners, and he made several journeys across the Atlantic and the Mediterranean on various liners. And he embarked on the Titanic on a maiden voyage from Southampton on April the 10th, 1912, and took his best cello with him. 5 days later, on the 15th of April, the ship was hit by an iceberg, and he and the other musicians famously continued to play as the Titanic sank, and all the members of the band drowned, and his body was never recovered. Despite this, his name is included on the family headstone, which can be found in Heath Lane Cemetery in West Bromwich. Now, another chap who a lot of people haven't heard of is John Johnson Shaw, and he also lived in Hilltop, and he invented the Milne-Shaw seismograph, which was launched in 1913 and became the world's standard piece of equipment for recording earthquakes, i.e. the seismograph. I think there's a picture of an early model we can show. So yeah, I bet most people who know what a seismograph is don't actually know it was invented by a chap who lived in Hilltop. So if anybody tells you nobody famous lived in Hilltop, think again. In front of us you can see a church. Now this is St James's Church, and the first St James's Church to occupy this site was built in 1841. In June 1844, St James's became a parish in its own right, and the last major service to be held at the old church was the institution of the Reverend Martin Rutter on the 28th of April 1986. Unfortunately, in November 1988, the old church was declared redundant, and plans were drawn up for the demolition of the old building, which was subsequently demolished. It was deemed that a new church should be erected for the parish, and construction work started on replacement in early 1994, and the foundation stone was laid by another local dignitary, Betty Boothroyd MP, who was Speaker of the House of Commons, and she laid the stone on the 21st of May 1994. And the church we can see in front of us was finally consecrated on the 4th of February 1995. Well, we're back in Denby Drive, heading away from Hilltop School at the Heath. And yeah, the weather's been glorious this afternoon. Hopefully it's going to hold for the bank holiday weekend, fingers crossed. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed the little bit of a preview of Hilltop and a little bit of the history of Hilltop. And if anybody wants to fill me in and any details they know that I haven't included, please feel free. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. So until next time, I'm going to say take care, folks. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about subscribing, it does help. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to know when new videos are coming up, please hit the notification bell. And as I say, all comments are more than welcome. So for now, folks, I'll leave it here and I'll say goodbye.